Anna was so annoying. Like, the author did such a good job making me absolutely hate her. Hi guys, my name is Tigress, and I just finished reading this book, Anna Karenina, and it is the version translated by Richard Pavir and Larissa Volохonsky. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm not a huge reader, as in I don't read a lot. I do spend a lot of time on social media, so I'm just trying to read more. And I also like missed a lot of school when I went to high school, as in I ditched a lot, and I just in general haven't read a lot of the classic literature, so I want to start doing that, and this was the first one I chose, honestly kind of randomly. I was looking around online at all of the classic books, and when I heard the description of this one, I was just like, it just reminded me of Gossip Girl, and honestly there are many ways that I think that this does remind me a lot of Gossip Girl. That's definitely not the bulk of what I want to talk about today, but it is one of my favorite shows, so it did very much make me enjoy this book. This book actually only took me 2 weeks to finish. And I wasn't like even in a race or necessarily a rush. I think that's just how good of a book this was. I really enjoyed it, but I thought I would go over like some of my thoughts about it because I was looking up online, like I wanted to, after reading it, I really wanted to read some people's or hear some people's reactions or some essays or just commentary on the story alone. Like I just wanted to hear people's thoughts. And I thought it was really interesting actually how many people talked about how much faith was a prominent part of this story. So basically, if you've never read this story before, it's about, I guess it's about 2 different relationships. One relationship is born out of infidelity, out of someone having an affair, and then another relationship is kind of like this new innocent young relationship, and kind of the contrasting two, set in like 1850 in Russia. So oh, and they're all really like, elite rich people as well. It seems like a lot of people think the theme is like, yeah, having to do with faith. What one relationship looks like that functions in a place of faith, and then one relationship looks like when it functions from a place of passion. And I just didn't get that. Or maybe like for me, it was just like different wording. I think maybe what I may end up saying by the end of this may be that same message, just with different verbiage. I'm not a religious person, and definitely by the end, the last chapter of this book, I did feel a little bit of pushing faith, but other than that, I just didn't feel like that was the core theme, that it wasn't something that like continued to come up. For me, I really think the theme of this book has to do with ego, and ego around like yourself and what your ego wants or expects and that sort of thing, but also like society pressures and like what they say, like how you should be and how you should interact, and how those things like interfere with your life if you let them. And I think Vronsky is like the greatest example of that, because he has so much ego around like and fear around being controlled, and has like this insane need to be independent to the point where he doesn't care how much he's hurting his partner. Yet at the same time, that is like what society is telling him over and over to do. They expect him to be independent, they expect him to not be affected by all of these things, to still be out and about and out of his house. And it ends up leading to him having that fear of being smothered and not looking like the independent man that he should appear as. And the same thing with Anna. She has this whole ego around her jealousy and being afraid of not being loved enough. Like it's never enough love for her that Vronsky is showing. Yet at the same time, so much of society is affecting her, because they don't allow her to leave the house. She can't leave the house without being absolutely ridiculed, and Vronsky has absolutely no compassion for that. And I really, really think ultimately that's what leads to Anna's madness and insanity, is because she cannot leave the house, yet at the same time has this man who insists on having this independent life. And it really isn't fair how much he continues to have a life and she doesn't at all. And so much of that has to do with society and their pressures and what's expected of them. And even Levin, who I think, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but that's how I pronounced it in my head. He kind of, I think, is supposed to be the heroic character because he's so humble, but he's constantly questioning, like, what's the right or wrong thing to do. Like, the conversation he's constantly having is, should he give away his riches and help the poor around him? And he's just like, I just don't know if that's the right thing to do. And he's constantly looking for these outside things to tell him if that's the right thing to do. And it's just like, dude, do you want to help people or not? Just like check in with yourself. Like, there's so much need to like appeal to society's expectations and to do what like outside things say to do. So I think for me that is a huge theme of this story, and I think that is in some ways how it's similar to Gossip Girl, like just to compare, because so much of Gossip Girl is about, it starts out these rich people are rich and they're rich because they're bad people. But when you put anyone in that situation, they have, even, you know, someone like Dan who's poor and humble, he even may start to do some of those bad things because no one is really a bad person. People just can do bad things when they're in desperate situations, especially depending upon what are the expectations. And I think like Stepan and Dolly, who are like this third other relationship, I think they're really interesting too. Like Dolly, I feel really, really sad for, and Stepan, I just ultimately hated him by the end of the book. I think there's such a great example of the couple that is fully conformed to the society expectation. Stepan is not involved with his kids at all. He's never home. He's out all day. He is secretly seeing other women. He is secretly broke, but still hanging out in these, you know, rich people, elite circles. He's not attracted to his wife at all, but still stays with her just for, you know, again, society stuff to appear and to, you know, look like he has a kept wife, and he feels entitled to it all. He's just like, this is what I'm supposed to do. Here I am living the exact life that I'm supposed to live. And poor Dolly, who married out of love, who actually loved Stepan, wasn't like forced into a marriage, but loved him when they got married, and now feels totally unloved, and she has forgotten herself and her own identity of who she is. Her whole life is cooking and cleaning and tending to children. She doesn't have any passions or hobbies or like friends really that she goes and sees, except for her husband's sister who barely even likes her. And she, you know, can't go out and do the things that her husband is doing, that Stepan is doing, because she would be totally ostracized like Anna. It's actually really interesting to think Levin and Kitty, who are this young relationship, what is going to keep them from becoming Dolly and Stepan? They have to work on listening to themselves and doing what's right for them and not listening to society, or they are inevitably going to end up where Dolly and Stepan is. There's nothing stopping them except for their own conversations with themselves being true to what they think is right and wrong. And the same thing again with Gossip Girl. Anyone who's in those situations, it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, bad or good person, like if you're in that situation where you are being asked to do something that's out of morale for you, it is up to you in that choice in that moment to make that choice or to stay aligned with your values. So I think that in so many ways is what it comes down to. But some side notes I just want to say, Anna was so annoying. Like, the author did such a good job making me absolutely hate her. Like, she was either way too pretty or she was just constantly nagging and constantly sad. She reminded me so much of myself when I was 13 and I like hated the world and I was like in this black dark cave of depression, but so much of that was hormones. So I'm curious like what psychologists think of Anna when they read this book. But also like, why didn't she love her baby daughter? What the heck? That still drives me nuts. Why didn't she love her daughter? And Levin too. Why didn't he love his son? I guess he did, but it's also like the disconnection from the kids is really, I don't get that part. I think there are some like historical things and cultural things about this time and this place and this like location and part of the world and stuff that I don't know and I genuinely am not understanding. There's probably a lot of layers to this because I am not very well adversed in history or in this parts of the world's history, really. Levin sounded so cute. He definitely sounded like my type, and him and Kitty's love story was definitely my favorite. They were so cute. And I'm so happy that like we got to kind of see their whole character arc and, you know, not just like them get together at the end of the book. Like we got to see the whole thing. So I really, really loved that. All in all, honestly, I think it was a really good book. I really enjoyed reading it and I would definitely 10 out of 10 recommend reading it if you're someone who just in general likes movies or shows or books about elite rich people or beautiful love stories or tragic love stories. This definitely has all of it. So yes, I very much enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this. I would love to hear your responses or your thoughts, and feel free to subscribe to my channel. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. All right, bye-bye.